Okay, so last week when we left off, we were on page 18 of our module, and we did let me go back here. Oh, sorry, we're on page 16, sorry, of our module, and we did the studio time where we created outfits. And I hope you enjoy that lesson, and I'm looking forward to seeing those. I haven't had a chance to look in the grade book yet to see those, but I'm excited to see what y'all came up with. So today we're going to continue and talking about line, and we're going to finish up module 1 today. And we're going to talk about self portraits and how people draw faces and their own face in particular. And one of the things we look for as we talk about line and how we draw faces is how we can find lines in the face that help us draw what somebody actually looks like, how to show them when they're happy or sad, when they're young or old, and that sort of thing. So when we look at the faces here, you can see sort of the expression on the young lady's face there in the top left is a little angry or grumpy. Maybe she's maybe a little upset. And we can tell because of the lines that make her eyebrow and the top of her eye and the way that they kind of sink down a little bit in the front more so. When we look at the on the picture to the right, those eyebrows are created by lines way up high, and the eyes of the line are sort of more up in the center area. So it looks like the eye is open a little more brighter and that sort of thing. Same thing with the bottom right. You can see the eyebrows are lines that are really higher up on the face a little bit, and that kind of gives us that impression that they're happy. So what we would like for you to do in this one is we're going to have a look at ourselves in the mirror, particularly on our make day. We're going to look at our cameras on our Chromebooks or in a mirror if you have one. And we're going to look at all the expressions that we can make with our faces. Can you make sad faces and happy faces? And as we make those faces, we're going to look at how the lines in our face change to reflect that expression of happiness or sadness and that sort of thing. Hi, friends. Take a look at my artwork. So proud of it. There are two kinds of lines that I use to create it. Let me show you. Well, so we can look and there's two types of lines in particular. We see that there are these horizontal lines, these lines that go left to right, go side to side. And this is a sort of a horizontal line here. And then we see lots of vertical lines, these lines like this, and this lines like this. Vertical lines are lines that go up and down. This is a vertical line. In artwork like paintings, a horizontal line follows the horizon and separates the ground from the sky. A vertical line can be drawn anywhere in a painting as long as it goes straight up and down. Let's check it out. So in this instance, they're showing you where the horizon line is. And it's right here. We can take this and scroll across and we can see that horizon line. And that's a horizontal horizon line, and this is a vertical line that we're drawing across with. So when we talk about self-portraits, we're talking about when an artist draws themselves. Artists usually use horizontal lines in artworks like landscapes and vertical lines in artworks like self-portraiture. A self-portrait is a drawing, painting, or sculpture of the artist who created it. Look closely to see all the different lines used in these self portraits. And the one that really strikes me is Frida Kahlo. She's one of my favorite artists. And we can see her use of line here, both horizontal going side to side and vertical. We see some of the vertical lines here going up and down, almost creating sort of like a grid with these little vines that seem to be growing across her. We see horizontal lines in her leaves. In this painting, my mascot, you see all these lines, horizontal lines in the background going left and right. And we even see some really sort of heavy line, thick line that goes vertically in this Rottluff painting. Artists choose the kind of line to create their self portraits. How many kinds of lines can you spot in these self portraits? Do you see any curved lines, straight lines, diagonal lines, or wavy lines? I see lots of straight lines there. I'm going to go with straight. What do we think? Yeah, all right. What about this one? Many short lines used to create this self portrait of Vincent van Gogh. When you look really closely, what other kind of lines do you see? I see sort of thick lines here, and thin lines, and some curved lines, and straight lines. I'm going to go with these thick lines. All right, let's see. What about the next one? This self portrait does not look like the artist's face. Not all self portraits have to be realistic. Sometimes artists create abstract self portraits like this one. Finding lines in abstract art can be trickier, but give it your best shot. Oh, goodness, boy, look at these lines. So these kind of go up and down, around, and look at the mouth line here. Oh, and the mustache line. I'm going to go with wavy lines. They look very wavy to me. And last but not least is this self portrait by Ligabue. I'm not familiar with this artist. Ligabue Antonio. There are all kinds of lines in this self portrait. I know you can find them all. Can you find curved lines? Yeah, I see curved lines. What about straight lines? Yeah, that's pretty straight right there. And he does have that sort of straight line in the horizon line. And what about dotted lines? Have we seen any dotted lines? Well, maybe in the background here, those might be dotted. And these little tiny short lines might be. And even in his head, there might be some dotted lines. What about parallel lines? Lines that run right next to each other in the same direction. Well, right there's two parallel lines, and here's some parallel lines. I can see them. Wavy lines? Well, sure. Here's a wavy line. Here's a wavy line. The clouds are made of wavy lines. Diagonal lines. Now, diagonal lines kind of go up and down from corner to corner. They don't go just left or right or just up and down, but at an angle. So this would be a diagonal line. These would be diagonal lines. This would be a diagonal line. Boy, we can find all of those lines in that drawing. Curve your lines. Using different lines helps you make self-portrait. For example, a curved line can make a smile or eyebrows. Depending on how you curve your line in a self-portrait, the expression on a face will change. You can see the differences. This is definitely not a happy. And again, we look at how the eyebrows, the lines that make the eyebrows, the lines that make the top of the eyes, as well as the lines that make that mouth. Again, we look at her mouth, it's got curved up, and her eyebrows are curved in a big arch, and her eyes are curved in a big arch. All of that indicates that she's happy. So, we're going to do a little studio time on um, later this week. When we do, on Wednesday, excuse me. When we do, we're going to do a little self portrait. And we're going to watch that video at that time when we look at that self portrait. We're going to do that on Studio Day or on Make Day. The Inspirational Station. Inspiration can be found in different places. Let's take a look at what inspires each of my artist friends. So, Cassatt's nature scene. Nature inspiration. Cassatt was inspired to paint a nature scene that she saw outside her window. She also used paint splatters, which were inspired by her favorite artist, Jackson Pollock. Very nice. What about Frank? Oh, Frank was inspired to recreate a painting by his favorite artist, Vincent van Gogh. You can get ideas from other artists and your friends, but you should never directly copy them and pretend the ideas are yours. It's okay to copy them, but don't pretend like the ideas belong to you. Salvador used his imagination to create his painting. Your imagination is a great place to find inspiration to create artworks. Being inspired by nature. Wait, I'm confused. How do they know how to make art about these things? Hmm. Artists like Cassatt Color can be inspired by nature and the objects around that surround them. Nature is a good source of inspiration because it's always around you and it's always changing. Using nature as inspiration will also challenge you to recreate what you see in nature, like the waves of an ocean, using different elements of art like line. These are a couple of paintings by Claude Monet, and Monet is a great artist who used to paint the same scene over and over and over again. He would paint these haystacks in the winter and in the spring and the fall. He would paint the same buildings again and again and again in the summer and the winter, when it was raining, when it was foggy, on bright, sunny, hot days and cold days. Because each of those days, the light would change and the thing he was painting would change a lot. Monet used different kinds of lines to show you what sunrise and sunset look like. Look closely at the water in both paintings. Does the water look more rough at sunset or at sunrise? And how can you tell? Well, it does look a little choppier here, and I believe this is his sunset, and I believe this is his sunrise. This is one of the first, and this is actually technically the first Impressionist painting, or the first painting associated to the style of Impressionism. And so we see that maybe the lines are not quite as peaked, showing little tops of waves. Where over here we kind of see the little lines create the tops of little waves, and we get darker lines next to lighter lines, maybe showing some shadow and light. Or maybe those waves are growing and getting bigger. So make it your own. Using another artist's artwork as inspiration is a great thing to do, but don't directly copy it or it won't be true to you. Hey, friends. Yep, you read that right. You can use an artist's artwork as inspiration to create your own, but you should never directly copy it and pretend it's your idea. Artists learn from each other by looking closely at how they use art techniques to create artwork. For example, Piet Mondrian was a famous artist who was inspired by Pablo Picasso and his use of lines in artwork. What similarities can you see in these two paintings? So, this Picasso painting over here has lots of vertical and horizontal lines. Vertical and horizontal lines also in the Mondrian. You'll also notice that there are the divisions of those spaces are sort of similar. You see large spaces and small spaces. Same thing over here. We got large areas and smaller areas. And for the most part, we get a lot of similar looks in these lines because, again, those horizontal and those vertical lines are reinforced in what Mondrian's done in his response to Pablo Picasso's work. So imagine the creativity. If you can dream it, you can create it. Your imagination is a great place, or a great source of inspiration, because you can create artworks that only you can think of. Using your imagination as a source of inspiration for your artwork means you can create artwork with things you dream or think about. This painting shows a woman surrounded by imaginary animals. The artist used many different kinds of lines to create the animals. How many of these lines can you spot in this painting? Oh yeah, lots of straight lines, wavy lines, curved lines, dotted lines. Oh yeah. Here's dotted lines, curved lines. We got wavy lines, straight lines, spiraling lines, parallel lines, zigzagging lines, thick lines like this leg, and thin lines like maybe right here in this little bird's tail or his beak. All kinds of great lines. So look at everyday objects. Sometimes artists can find inspiration in objects around them. Giorgio Morandi was an artist famous for creating still life artwork. An artist creates a still life by painting, drawing, or photographing objects that cannot move. Therefore, they remain still life. So Still Life by this is Morandi, and this one is also from 1919 and 1943. Give it a try. Try to identify which of these artworks is still life and which is not. Well, that's probably not still life because that person could walk. Hmm. There's nothing in here that can move that I can see. What about this one? Do y'all see anything that can move? Let's see. Still life, objects cannot move. Still life, objects cannot move. Not a still life because something in that painting can move. All right. Now we're getting close. It's studio time, and we'll get together on Wednesday for your make day to create your self portrait and also to create this work of art. And make sure when you come, you've got something to draw with. Um, we're doing a still life. I'm going to have one set up that you all can look at while I draw it, or you can have a few things of your own set up that you can draw. So just remember paper and pencil, and I look forward to see you guys on Wednesday. Have a great day.